I will talk about works in this video and about the judgment day. I start to talk about what it says in Matthew 25:31-46. It's when Jesus Christ, everyone who ever have lived will stand before Jesus Christ. All the saints and all sinners will stand before Jesus Christ. And Jesus will separate the sinners with the saints. The saints are the so-called sheep, and he will take them and separate them to his right side, and the goats, the sinners, to his left side. And they will be judged according to their works. It says there, Jesus says that those sheep, the Christians, they have helped people. For example, if someone needed water, they gave that person water. In the same time they gave Jesus water. Because it says, what you did to one of the least of those ones, you also did to me. So if someone gave water to someone in need, they also gave water to Jesus. The same with the jacket, if someone was freezing, and so on. The sheep, the Christians, they had a lot of good works, and they need that to go to heaven. Those kinds of good works. But the wicked ones, the goats, they had no good works. They were selfish and was thinking about themselves all the time. They did not give other people water in need and so on. And in the same time, they did not give Jesus water. So here it says clearly, like the best weather it can be, that Jesus said that we need good works to go to heaven. But it does exist different kind of good works. When you help people in need, etc., it's works that you have to have when you follow Jesus to go to heaven. The same goes for spreading the word, share the gospel to others. That also good works, and you need those to go to heaven. But it does exist works that you don't need to have. That's just a bonus to have. I will read what it says in Ephesians 2:8-9. For by grace you have been saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not of works, lest anyone shall boast. Here it talks about works that are outside your faith, works that you don't need to have. For example, if someone has an old Xbox 360, he don't use anymore, for example. If that person gives away the Xbox 360 to another person as a gift, that's a good work. But you don't need to have that kind of work to go to heaven. But that's still a good works, and you will still add up bonus treasures and stuff like that in heaven if you do works like this that you don't need to have. These are good works that you don't need to have. But in 1 Thessalonians 1:3, it talks about those works you must have. It says, remembering without ceasing your work of faith, labor of love, and patience of hope in our Lord Jesus Christ in the sight of our God and Father. These are about works in the faith, remembering without ceasing your work of faith. So we must have good works. Faith without works is dead. So, like I talked about in the beginning, it does exist works that we must have, helping others, etc., to go to heaven. But it does exist our own works that we don't need to have, that will not save us. But it's still nice and good works. Like I said, that example about giving away an Xbox 360. You don't need, you can keep it if you want, and you can sell it and keep the money for yourself and buy food for the money and that you eat yourself. You will still go to heaven, but you will not get any payment for heaven if you choose to be selfish in those ways. So that it does exist works that you need to have to go to heaven, and it does exist works that's just the bonus works. That's your own works that you don't need to have, but it's always fun to get a payment for heaven or treasures or whatever you will get for it. I can read here about works, what Jesus said in John 10:25. I told you, and you do not believe. The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness of me. Jesus had works that he needed to have. And we follow Jesus. We also need to have certain kind of works. In Matthew 5:16, Jesus says, "Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven." And in James 2:24 it says, "You see then that the man is justified by works and not by faith alone." James 2:20, faith without works is dead. So you need to have good works. And I will go on and talk about the judgment for the saints and for the sinners. The judgment, and I will come back a little to works later, because that goes hand in hand with the judgment. So I will start to talk about the judgment of the saints, because this is the thing. The sinners will not be in the judgment of the saints. We who will be saved will have our own judgment. In 2 Corinthians, in the first chapter, we can read that Paul writes to the saints in the Corinthians. He wrote to the Christians. So if we move on and read in 2 Corinthians 5, 10 to 11, this is about the saints. It says, "For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ." This is for the Christians, not the sinners, that each one may receive the things done in the body according to what he has done, whether good or bad. Even the Christians will be judged for the good or the bad, knowing therefore the terror of the Lord. So it will be fearful to be in the judgment seat of Christ, even for Christians. So just imagine how fearful it will be for the sinners who know they will be cast into hell. Because this is the judgment of the saints, not the great white throne judgment for the sinners, and that will come later. The sinners will not be, like I said, in the judgment seat of Christ. It says in Psalm 1:5, "Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous." And the judgment seat of Christ, for the judgment for the Christians, it will look like this. I will read in 1 Corinthians 3:11 to 15. "For no other foundation can anyone lay that which is laid, which is Jesus Christ." Jesus is the only foundation we can lay. "Now if anyone builds on this foundation with gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, straw, each one's work will become clear. For the day will declare it, because it will be revealed by fire, and the fire will test each one's work of what sort it is. It does exist different kind of works. Like I said earlier, some kind of works when you help people in need and stuff and spread the word to other people. That is works that you must have. That's a requirement to go to heaven. But here it talks about other kind of works. Like I said, now if anyone builds on this foundation with gold, silver, precious stones, Those kind of works is what I gave example of earlier. For example, that you have old video games and you have an Xbox 360. You want to give that to someone else. If you live your life like that and give people stuff and things like that you don't need to do to go to heaven, but it's still good works you do, that's a bonus works. And if you do things like this, you build your foundation with gold, silver and precious stones. If you, for example, have money and you give it away to the poor, you will get treasures in heaven. But if you keep the money and buy stuff for yourself, you will not get any treasures in heaven, but you still will be saved. But you will build your foundation with wood, hay and straw. Each one's work will become clear, for the day will declare it, because it will be revealed by fire. And the fire will test each one's work, of what sort it is. If anyone work which he has built on it endures, he will receive a reward. If anyone work is burned, he will suffer loss. This can be what I read about earlier, the bad we will be judged of, or just the bonus works that we choose to not have. But he himself will be saved, yet so as through fire. So I will repeat myself with one thing here. If someone freezing out there and I have a jacket, I am commanded to help this poor soul if I have the chance to do it. If I don't do it, I will be just like the goats. I will not have those kind of good works and I will burn in hell. But let's say that I'm sitting here and thinking that, oh, my old Xbox 360. I don't want that anymore. If I go and sell it, take the money and buy food and stuff for myself, because I'm selfish when it comes to this. Let's say, I don't say it is like that, I just say, give this as an example. Let's say I do that, I will not get the reward. If I still live my life for Jesus. But I building my foundation on wood and stuff like that. I will still be saved, but I will not get the reward for this. I don't need this work to give away my Xbox 360 or sell it and give the money away. But I can do it. And if I do it, I build my foundation on gold if I live my life like that. So it does exist works that you need to have to go to heaven, and it does exist bonus works that you don't need to have, but you will get you will be rewarded if you do this. So the court of the judgment of the saints will not be like the judgment of the wicked. Even if the saints will see the judgment of the wicked, they will be there. But the Christians, the saints, have already been judged, and they will go to heaven. But now I will read about this, the judgment for the wicked. The great white throne judgment. In Revelation 20:11-15 it says, "Then I saw a great white throne and him who sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away. And there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, standing before God, and books were opened. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged according to their works." To their works. Remember that, you need to have works. "By the things which were written in the books. The sea gave up the dead who were in it, and the death and Hades delivered up the dead who were in them. And they were judged, each one according to his works. Then death and Hades were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death, and anyone not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire." This judgment is not the judgment you want to be in. If you are a Christian, you will see it, but that's another thing. You will not be in the judgment. You don't want to be there. You don't want to be wicked and be cast into hell. That must be I know it will be terrible. It will be fearful for a Christian who know that person will be saved to face God on Judgment Day. Just imagine how it will feel for the wicked. So what my suggestion to you is, now live your life to do all those works, help other people, spread the word, etc., and so you can go to heaven when you die. It's works-based salvation. You need to have good works to go to heaven. And if you want, as a bonus, do extra works of your own. You will add up treasures, you will get rewarded for it, but you don't need to have it. But it's more fun to go to heaven and be rewarded with stuff and get treasures than go to heaven empty-handed. That's what that's how it is. Jesus bless you.